welcome to the leadership panel. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. At the very end of the panel, we're going to have kind of like a code that you're going to have to write at the bottom of your learning passport before you submit it. So just make sure you stay till the end for that. Question 1, could you please introduce yourself, your position, and the company you work for? And we'll start with Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Hattie. I'm a Human Resources Manager, and I actually work here at Mount St. Vincent University.
Hi, my name is Burcu Kaptan. I am a consultant with Aliant with their recruitment currently, but I have been doing consulting for a long time.
I'm Jeff McKinnon. I'm Vice President Corporate Services with Credit Union Atlantic, and I teach at the Mountain part-time.
Question 2, could you please tell us about the responsibility that comes with your position, such as what your job entails? We'll start with Jeff.
Sure. So my responsibility is really sort of all the back office functions. So I would manage the human resources, information technology, accounting, finance, and risk management. So it's a little bit of everything that sort of supports the front end sales operational side.
So I'm working with Aliant right now, and my role entails strategic recruitment and talent branding. We are going into a fierce time period for talent wars, and my role at Aliant is really find our company on that map and really strengthen its position.
My role is mainly an HR generalist with a strong focus in labor relations, so I look after our collective bargaining and labor relations with the 5 unions that we have here at the Mount, as well as a variety of other HR functions, including job evaluation, compensation, strategic recruitment as well, policy development, and organizational design and change.
We are aware that leadership is important in any organization for growth to occur. Please describe what leadership means to you and how students can acquire these skills in areas that, as not all of us are born leaders. We'll start back with Chris.
Great. So when people in HR like myself talk about, the skills you need to do a job, we often use what's called KSAs, or knowledge, skills, and abilities. And that's an HR term to kind of describe the broad range of qualifications you need in order to kind of perform the base requirements of a job. I think what leadership is, it's all the other things that a really great employee brings to the table that makes them stand out. It's really about seeing the bigger picture, understanding how their role isn't just about performing their day-to-day work, but how it really supports the organization's overall goals and objectives, and really how, as an individual part of that organization, they can contribute to the strategic mandate of that company.
To me, on top of what Chris said, leadership is really being able to inspire. And inspiration is a huge part of the leadership that we can bring to our day-to-day, even for small things that we are doing. Another really important piece of leadership is being optimistic and being able to lead through that optimistic perspective. Having integrity goes without saying. No matter what you do, having the integrity embedded in what you do is really, really critically important. I would say confidence is another big piece, along with communication. And nowadays, there's another notion that's spoken outside, which is being authentic, being genuine, and being able to show who you are and what you're made of.
Going last in these is always difficult, but I think these guys had some really good points, and maybe just to sort of build on that, I absolutely agree with all of those views, and I almost envision leadership as the way people interact with one another to some extent, and how that supports, to Chris's point, the sort of organizational goals. And I think, to sort of further the question, there's obviously some discussion around some people are maybe born leaders, some people it's sort of a learned skill, and I've heard sort of different schools of thought, but I do believe, and I really truly do believe, it is a bit of a learned skill set, and some of that comes sort of in the classroom form, but I think a lot of it really is practice and getting out there and sort of experiencing different environments. And I've personally worked with all kinds of different leadership types. And I think as long as you can do that and walk away and have learned something from each of them, I think you're on the path to developing that skill set to be a good leader.
Okay, perfect. We'll start back with Jeff then. Well, knowing what you know now, what is one thing that you wish you had known back when you were 20?
From a professional standpoint, I would say I'm a huge proponent of networking, and I really believe that there's a ton of value in that. And obviously, I'm from Halifax, and Halifax is a pretty small city when it comes to business. So I wish, and I know I'd been told that back when I was 20 and when I was doing my undergrad, but I wish I'd actually listened, because I think that it's proven very positive for me personally, and that's kind of the message I always try and convey is if I could go back, I would have focused more on networking sort of in my early 20s.
So I have two things on that I have taken note of, and one of them was really networking and being a master communicator. And I will go back to what was said before. Some of these things come naturally to some people. For some of us, we need to work at it. And you're at a great age right now, mostly. I would say to work on that skill, your communication skills, and being a master on that. I would also suggest not being scared to make mistakes. I was always very, oh, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? So when you do something and if it's a mistake, you learn from that, and it's one of the greatest learnings of your life. If I could go back to my 20-year-old, I would have said, don't be afraid of making mistakes, because the greatness comes with making mistakes. So, yeah.
I also have two answers, so I guess we're a very rogue panel here. Apologize.
I mean, the more is better.
Right. And the first one is when it comes to being, I guess, successful in the workplace, it's not just what you do, but it's how you do it. I see a lot of people when they're starting off in their career, and I'm guilty of it as well, is you have a lot of great ideas, you're ready to just kind of jump in and make a difference, and you get really frustrated sometimes about just sort of how slow change comes, about how, I guess, limited you can sometimes be in your ability to kind of jump in and really start making a change and rise to the top. And it really comes down to the fact that organizations are sort of living, breathing things. They have a unique culture, they have a unique politics to them, and there's all kinds of different personalities involved. So one of the most important things when you get out into the workplace and if you transition to a new role, it's understanding the culture of the organization you're working for and figuring out, again, not just about what you want to do and what your sort of goals are for your role, but figuring out how do you do your work, how do you go about working with others in that organization in order to be successful. And the other thing, if I could go back to 20-year-old me and say is, you don't know everything. And it's just that simple. Every day you're alive, you learn something new. So today, you don't know as much as you're going to know tomorrow, so never enter into any type of situation thinking that you know exactly what the right answer is or that you know more than someone else.
Please describe 3 main factors that have led to your success in your career or life. Let's start back with Chris.
Great. I'm glad I get to go first because I only wrote down 3 possible lines. And the first one is be flexible. Again, one of the, I guess, biggest things that I see people do all the time that sort of limits their ability to be successful is looking at their role in a very rigid manner, saying to their supervisor or someone else, that's not my responsibility, that's so-and-so's responsibility. I don't have to do that, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Nothing stands out more to the people that have the ability to kind of help you grow your career than seeing that type of flexibility, the ability to kind of step up, do something new, different, contribute in an area that you really have no obligation to contribute in. The second one is be accessible. Especially managers, senior managers, there's nothing they like more than they send you an email, leave you a voicemail, ask you a question, and you have that response back to them as quickly as possible. It's just amazing how they say 90% of success is showing up, and it's completely true. Being timely with responses and with information with projects is incredibly important. And the third one is just be personable. Everyone likes working with nice, friendly, agreeable people that are fun to get along with. And, especially if you're trying to grow within an organization or move into a new organization, your personality still plays a huge role in your professional success.
Yeah. So I have things to compliment Chris, I guess. I would definitely suggest on top of flexibility, just open your mind to change. You know, just don't be scared of change. Don't be hesitant to change. Especially when you're young, if you can have a mind setting that will embrace change, that will carry you places. Because as you will see and as you go through life, you realize that not everybody has that ability. And it's something that's, again, learned through experience. And put yourself in those situations where you can acquire that change management skill. I would say if there are athletes within the crowd, you know, it's very much the same thing. Focus, hard work, integrity. Without those, whoever you are, you really cannot succeed in a professional life like an athlete cannot succeed in sports life. So those are, I think, very much the ingredients of leadership and success.
I try to think a little bit outside the box on this question, and I'm glad I did, going third again. But I think when I think of success, and maybe it's the accountant in me, but in order to achieve success, you need to define what success is. So for me, from a really, it was probably, I was thinking about this last night, probably maybe third year university, maybe fourth. I set goals for myself at age 30, at age 35, age 40. Haven't hit all those yet, but that gives me something to work towards and strive for. So I can look back and say I was successful or I wasn't. And when I do achieve those goals, it gives you motivation to continue. So for me personally, that was a big one. Is I set goals and I still live to work, or I work towards those goals even today. Another thing I would say, and it was mentioned earlier, is don't be afraid to fail or make mistakes. And I think, you know, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. The big takeaway is you need to learn from them. And I kind of come, I guess, from the school of hard knocks a little bit, and you know, I've obviously had a fair bit of education, but I've learned more in the real world by failure probably than I did in a lot of my classes. So I think it's really important to be able to learn how to fail and be able to pick yourself up and move forward. And then I think my third would be, don't be afraid to be different. And again, that's something that it's kind of been my mantra in my professional life anyways. You kind of hear all these stereotypical comments around what accountants are and what they do, and you know, they have pocket protectors and all this stuff. So I've always tried to be different and sort of approach things from a sales perspective. And I always kind of go back, and I think I probably learned it from Karen Blotnicki here actually, is the elevator pitch. So I'm always trying to sell, and that's kind of counterintuitive to an accountant. So, but I think that differentiates me. So when I go for a job interview or I'm speaking to somebody, they say, well, that guy, he's an accountant, but he's a little bit different. And you know, there's hundreds or thousands of us out there in Nova Scotia, so you need to be different. And I think some people are scared to be different, and they kind of fall into the mold. And I have a great example, actually. There's a lady, she's in one of the classes I teach here, fourth year accounting student, and she and all the accounting students are applying to jobs in CA firms right now. And I know a lot of the partners at the CA firms around town, and one of them actually came to me and asked if I knew this particular student. And I said, yeah, she's in one of my classes. And he said, I'm going to hire her. And I said, well, that's great. You know, why her? Because literally hundreds of students would be applying. And they said, she's applying to a CA firm, but she has a background in music and in acting, and she's different. She's outgoing, she's bubbly, and she's not the stereotypical accounting student. And she got the job strictly because she was different in that sense. So I think I kind of, again, live by that from a professional standpoint, and I think, in my opinion, there's a lot of value in that.
We'll start back with you. We are taught that mentors are often a critical piece of developing leadership skills. However, for new graduates, finding a mentor is a lot easier said than done. Did you have a mentor earlier in your career, and how did that person become your mentor?
Interesting question. So I would say, first off, my perception would be mentors would be easier to find than you'd think. In my experience, speaking of many that I know, people who are deemed to be successful like to talk about that. So if you were to approach somebody and ask them to be a mentor, you'd be surprised, I think, who would be willing or happy to do that. And I think it's a great idea. Not something, I didn't have a formal mentor. Again, my being different, I sort of approached things a little bit different when I was younger. But I was in the workforce early while doing my undergrad, working full time. And what I learned quickly is you need to learn from your boss or your manager or whomever, your CEO. So I've always, and even in picking my jobs over the last number of years, that's a huge component, is who am I going to report to and what can I learn from them, and are they willing to teach me? So while I didn't really have sort of a formal mentor per se, I sort of treated each of my direct managers through the years as a form of a mentor. And I learned an absolute ton by doing that. So and you learn both good and bad things. And I think that's, again, one of the takeaways I had is you learn what you want to live up to or strive to do, but you also learn things that you maybe don't agree with or that you do differently. So I think it's a fantastic idea. And I think if you wanted to have more of a formal mentor, I think there's absolutely opportunity out there. You just need to ask the questions.
I would say that mentorship piece really comes with work life on a day-to-day basis. As said, your manager, your director, I would definitely suggest them approach them as a mentor, unless their personality is such a way that you cannot talk about things. But on the other hand, I feel like mentors are everywhere. It's all around you. Everybody's good at something. So I might be a great communicator, and you might be a great analytic, a great thinker, and then we can influence each other to whatever work we are doing. So your friends can be your mentors on specific subjects as well. And again, as suggested, leaders like to talk about themselves or their successes, and also they like to be able to provide that guidance to anyone around them, like how they can make it happen. And it just brings this profound, feeling of, I helped that person, I supported that person, I assisted them to finding themselves, is a great fulfillment for the mentor as well. So don't hesitate to ask the question, or don't hesitate to reach out to your friends or colleagues, which you know that they're good at something. I also want to point out something else. You are the first generation who has access to all kinds of information. There is great resources out there. So if you create a profile on LinkedIn and then start to follow the major leaders of today and see and read what they are to say about today, or what they're doing, how they see things rolling. That's a great tool that we didn't have 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. So it's really looking for it and being inspired by things that will really speak to you.
I don't have much to add, but no, that's a good thing. I'm in the same boat. I had several professors, supervisors, directors that were excellent informal mentors, and I've learned a ton from. But I never did have a formal mentor, and to a certain extent, I kind of regret not formalizing that. And I just have to reiterate the other point that people on the other side, the potential mentors, really want to do this for all the great reasons that the other panelists talked about, and also for some very pragmatic reasons. I mean, for me, people that have a certified human resource professional, you get all kinds of recertification points if you're someone's mentor, and other kind of professional development things. So there's big rewards, both the intrinsic and some more explicit rewards for the mentor. So don't hesitate to ask someone. The other tip is that a lot of professional organizations actually facilitate setting you up with a mentor. So you don't necessarily have to pick up the phone and start cold calling, vice presidents of organizations. If you're interested in human resources, working with the Human Resource Association of Nova Scotia to get a mentor, they have a whole program. And I assume that things like accounting associations and other professional associations have similar programs. I also know that Fusion Halifax, or the Young Professionals Networking Group, also has a mentor program. So if you are a little shy, and I know I would have been, horrified when I was in university to start cold calling people because it's not the way I am, you don't have to do that. There's other avenues to kind of get to the end of having a good professional mentor.
Okay. Do you believe that leadership, growth, and effectiveness are a connected circle? Why or why not? Back to you.
So, absolutely, and I might be going on a bit of a tangent here because I'm not exactly sure how to answer the question, but really, everything you do in an organization, in your kind of professional life, is connected, and your personality, your knowledge, your skills, your leadership potential, everything's connected. It all comes back to the fact that in an organization, like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of this living organism. So the kind of theoretical component would be what we call PARC, or that people, architecture, routines, and culture within an organization are all interlinked and work together. So again, that's more of a tangent than I meant to go on. But yes, leadership, growth, and effectiveness are part of a connected circle. You need to have all the pieces of a puzzle to get to the end goal within an organization, which is sort of what are our strategic goals, where are we trying to move things along.
I would just say, absolutely it is. If you want to be a leader, you need to be open, grow all the time, and be effective. But growth and effectiveness themselves does not make you a leader. It just comes, with a lot of other ingredients as well. And you can be, you can be open to development, and you can be very effective. And you might choose not to be a leader as well. So just see this as a whole picture, as Chris said, and just look for any opportunities that you can grow. I think that's the critical piece, and don't be afraid to tackle anything that comes your way.
Again, in an effort to be different, I'm going to say absolutely not. They're not a circle. No, kind of kidding. I'll say
Accountant.
I'm gonna say a soft yes. I think in order to develop leadership and be a good leader, you need growth and effectiveness. But I think, and maybe I'm just approaching the question a little different, but I think you can absolutely be effective in particular without requiring an element of leadership. And I know lots of people that have no desire to be leaders, but yet they're very, and again, maybe it's sort of the accounting side of me, but they're perfectly content in being an extremely effective clerk or whatever it is their position is, and have no drive, no desire, or really the skill set for leadership. But they're certainly effective, and they can grow. They can grow within their career to some extent as well. So I'm kind of pushing it a little bit to say why I think they're not connected, but I certainly think there's an element of connectivity. But I get reluctant a little bit in that I think leadership is not for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I guess maybe sort of my point is that don't feel that leadership is necessarily a requirement to have a successful career. As we said earlier, it's a bit of a learned skill set, and it's not for everyone. So that's all I would add. But I think the other points are absolutely valid for sure. I just wanted to put my stamp on that question a little bit.
Our last question is, if you were asked to leave us with one piece of advice for students and new graduates, what would it be? Start back with Jeff.
Oh, my turn?
There you go.
Okay. I'll think outside the box a little bit again, and I'd say my advice would be think strategically and think ahead. Be strategic. And again, I reference what's worked and not worked for me, and I've made a ton of mistakes, trust me. But I think, coming out of university, I was fortunate enough to know what I wanted to do with my career. So every step along the way, I wasn't only thinking about what's this going to do for me today. I was thinking, what's this going to do for me long term? And I remember the first time I really had to stand up and make that decision was fourth year as a student at the Mount, and I was just kind of being pushed to become a CA. My grades were pretty strong in financial accounting, and the professors, my family, CA firms were sort of pushing me to become a CA. But I knew long term that wasn't the ultimate direction I wanted to go, so I opted to go a different route. And it was kind of against the grain, again, being different. But I'm thinking longer term. Short term, would the CA route have been the better way to go? Probably. But every job I've taken along the way, it's never about how much money am I going to make this year, or what's my business card going to look like this year. It's how does this fit into my long-term strategy as a professional, and is this going to build a foundation for me to continue to grow and develop? So that would be my recommendation, is really try and think outside the box and think ahead, and think, how does this decision impact not only today, but my life or my career in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
I will I will build on what Jeff said again, but maybe I will look from the failure piece. So I know that at times when we are facing with decisions or issues, we feel like we lost something, and it's sizing that opportunity at the end and not seeing it as a failure, but it is really an opportunity to learn from and to grow from there. And I think if you have a great leader to give as an example, it is Steve Jobs. Like, I'm sure most of you have seen the movie, but the things in his life that looked like big fails turned out to be the best things for him that could have happened. So size the opportunity, whatever the life brings to you. I also want to say one more thing. We are living and working in a connected world, and the communication has become a huge part of what we do. Be really, really specific and conscious about what you're putting on your social media profiles. I think that's a huge part of next generation's. I don't want to say problem, but it is going to be really become something that will be facing you when you are least expecting, kind of thing. So I would. If there's a piece of advice that I can give you, really, really be conscious of what you're putting out there, and really keep it clean. And I know what you know what I'm saying, so I'm not gonna go on more about it. And when you start your career search, do have a LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to open up to the world, and it's truly a professional networking tool. And I think that it will bring you a lot of good information.
Before I answer, I was talking to a 70-year-old lawyer today who screens potential candidates' Instagram. So old people are more tech savvy than you think, so don't take that for granted. And I'm going to take the opportunity, I guess, to kind of go back to the last question and explain and use my answer to kind of wrap up why I think leadership, growth, and effectiveness are connected. And it's because I really think leadership is not just about being a formal leader. You don't have to be a manager, a senior executive, a high flyer in order to be a leader. Again, someone who's destined to be in a clerk role for their career and can be a leader if what they bring to that is the ability to make a positive impact in their coworkers and in the organization they work for. Being a leader, and like I said earlier, it's about seeing the big picture, it's about having the right type of attitude that you bring to the workforce, and about really just understanding what it is you do and why you're great at it. So again, anyone I think can be a leader, and it really is a key aspect of growth and effectiveness in the workplace. And when we talk about growth, it's not just professional, it's personal growth as well. And I've talked to a lot of people that say, look, I come to work, I want to be in this kind of same role, no ambition to grow, but what really matters to me is being able to go home and spend time with my children, being able to become a great gardener, be able to give back to the community. And in my opinion, those are all examples of leadership because it's people making a positive impact in the way that they feel they're best able to. And as a final point, to kind of wrap up, advice into 2 words is be passionate and take risks. So.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for our panelists for coming in. Very much appreciate your guidance and insight. To all the students, please make sure when you're filling out your learning passport, at the very bottom of the description, please write 1-830-1411. That's the only way we're going to be able to accept your passports for this event. Thank you very much for attending.
Say the number again.
Number one more time is 1-830-1411.